Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2020 Lexus NX 300, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the CURT Class Trailer Hitch Receiver. With these Lexuses being really stylish and good looking vehicles, if I had one and was wanting to put a hitch on it, probably the first thing that would come to my mind is how the hitch would look on the back of it. Well, to be honest with you, I don't think this one looks all that bad. It is going to be, for the most part, pretty visible, but it does kind of sweep towards the back and blends in a little bit. Now, I will say the receiver tube here does kind of stick out a little bit, but the benefit to that is it's going to be super easy to use. So it's going to be really easy to get your accessories inside and secure. A lot of the people who own the smaller SUVs like the NX 300 plan on using their hitch for folding accessories, bike racks in particular. And this one should work out real well for that if that's what you plan on doing. And I say that because it's going to give us plenty of clearance. So the end of the receiver tube opening is going to sit pretty much flush with the edge of our bumper, and that should give us more than enough space to be able to take those accessories, fold them in that upright position, and not have to worry about them making contact with our bumper. So I want to mention, for those of you that have your Lexus equipped with that automatic hatch assist, it is still going to work. So what we're able to do is put our foot to either side of the hitch and get this to lift up. Now I will say it may take a few practice tries and kind of find that sweet spot where it works, but once you find it, it's going to consistently operate the way it should. In our case, it works a little bit better here on the left-hand side of our vehicle. So since this is a Class 3 hitch, it's going to give us that 2-inch by 2-inch receiver tube opening. That's a really common size, and we'll be able to find a ton of different type of accessories that'll work well with this. It's going to have a reinforced collar for extra strength, and in my opinion, I think it makes the hitch look a little bit better too. It's going to have that standard 5/8 pinhole. Now I want to mention a pin and clip does not come included, but if you need one, you can pick it up here at eTrailer. We're going to have plate style safety chain openings, and the openings themselves aren't huge, but we're going to have a lot of space above and below it, and that should allow us to use pretty much just about any size hook that we might have. As far as the hitch's weight capacities go, it's going to have a 525-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating. So that's going to be the amount of weight that's pushing down on the hitch. Now, that's a pretty high number, so you should be able to use pretty much any size bike rack or cargo carrier that you would want to. As far as the maximum gross trailer weight rating goes, it's going to be 3,500 pounds. And that's going to be the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. So it is the weight of your trailer plus anything that you might have on it. Now, this can be used with a weight distribution system, which is a separate component. But if you do use that, the maximum gross trailer weight rating does increase to 4,000 pounds. However, the maximum gross tongue weight rating does remain the same at 525. Now, I do always like to mention, it's never a bad idea to check your Lexus's owner's manual to make sure your SUV can pull that much weight safely. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you're going to use these to help figure out which hitch-mounted accessories to get. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, it's going to be about 13 inches. So if you do plan on doing some light-duty towing, I would suggest getting a ball mount with a rise. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 3 inches. And you're going to use that measurement to help figure out that if any folding accessories you might have can be stored in the upright position without contacting the bumper. So at the end of the day, a pretty good looking hitch that's going to be able to handle pretty much anything you want to throw at it. Now, as far as the installation goes, it's really not too bad, believe it or not. I honestly don't think you should have really any issues doing it at home, in your garage, or maybe even in the driveway. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and put it on together now. To begin our install, we're going to be working underneath the back of our Lexus, and what we're going to need to do is lower our exhaust. So just to help give it a little bit of support and help us control how far and how fast we let it down, I'm going to take a strap, just run it from side to side, and that'll help keep everything together and stop it from coming down so fast. To get our exhaust down, we're going to have a total of 3 rubber exhaust hangers like this. To get these removed, you want to spray them down with some lubricant or even some soapy water. Then we're going to take a pry bar and just pry the rubber hanger off of the metal portion. There's one identical to this on the other side of our car, so we'll take that one off as well. And then we're going to have one here in the center. So same deal, we're just going to use that pry bar. You can even use a big screwdriver to kind of work that hanger off. So once we get that last hanger removed, we can loosen up our strap a little bit, and that'll give our exhaust some wiggle room. And it'll only give us a couple inches. I don't think that's going to be sufficient enough to allow our hitch to slide up into place. And what's hanging our exhaust up is these little trim rings. So what I'm going to do is remove that trim ring on each side, and that'll allow our exhaust to come down even further. These trim rings are held in place by 4 10mm bolts, so one in each corner, and I'll pull them out using a 10mm socket. So even with the bolts out, that trim ring is still kind of hung up, and that's because those bolts actually pass in through these plastic fasteners, so we're going to have to pop them out too. Pretty straightforward here. We're just going to take a flathead screwdriver and kind of pry out on them, and they will simply just come right out. So once you have them removed, you can kind of push back on it and slide it out of the way. So I'm going to repeat the same process over on the other side. So with all that done, now we can lower our exhaust a little bit more, and this will provide us with enough working room now. Now I'd like to point out our attachment points. On each side of our frame rail, we're going to have a total of 2. We're going to have one right here, which is a factory weld nut, and one right here, which is also a factory weld nut. I do recommend to spray down some penetrating oil in there and use a tube brush to kind of clean out any dirt or debris that may be in the holes. I want to mention too, anything we do to this side of the vehicle from this point on, we're also going to do to the other side. So we set up the same way. Now that we have our holes cleaned out, the hardware that we're going to use to secure our hitch will be a bolt and a conical tooth washer. That's going to be the same for all of our attachment points. So the way it's going to work is you want to put the washer on the bolt with the teeth facing up. So the teeth are going to face the hitch once we get it installed. Now with an extra set of hands, we can raise our hitch into position. So you're going to want to kind of go up and over the exhaust. We're going to push it against our frame rail there. And we're going to line up the holes in the hitch with our attachment points. We're going to take our hardware and get them started hand tight. Now that we have all of our hardware in place and hand tight, I'm going to use a 3/4 inch socket to snug everything down. Now we can come back with a torque wrench and tighten everything down to the amount specified in our instructions. So now we can grab our exhaust trim piece here. And what I found is if you take those little plastic fasteners, just to push them back into it while we have it off, makes it a little bit easier to get them lined back up. And then if you come up to our tailpipe, you want to raise the exhaust up some with your strap, but not all the way. And take that trim piece, slide it over the tailpipe, and then we're able to kind of push up on it, get that trim piece lined back up and re-secured. So once we have those trim pieces tightened down and secured, we can rehang our exhaust. So we're just going to lift it up by hand and push it through the hangers. It does help sometimes too to re-lubricate them. Makes them slide on a little bit easier. But once we have the exhaust supporting itself, we can then remove our strap. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the CURT Class 3 Trailer Hitch Receiver on our 2020 Lexus NX 300.